Hey, this is Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, I want to talk about something that we kind of do get held to a standard to, but it's not always in our capacity to be able to influence completely and guarantee 100%. Nothing in life is 100% guaranteed, and when it comes to working with technology, in engineering roles, that is heightened by a significant degree because we deal with a lot of variables in any project that we do, any outcomes that we're trying to achieve. There are variables that vary from availability of parts, resources, all of that, to our team members being unwell, there being an emergency, which then pushes everything else out. There are no real guarantees that we can give. And in terms of making a particular thing work a particular way, no matter how much we feel like we can control things, ultimately there are variables in every equation that we deal with as tech professionals, tech managers, engineering professionals, engineering managers. It's just the nature of the kind of work that we do, being knowledge work and work that depends on a lot of things that we don't completely control, completely have access to all the code to be able to fix and have it customized to our needs. So in knowing all that and understanding all that, a whole lot of expectation comes on our shoulders to set the right kind of expectations with our stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders could be anyone from vendors sometimes to our executive teams, our other teams in the organization, as well as our own technology and engineering teams that we are leading. In this case, we also need to think about longer run times in between where we start the phase of saying yes, let's do this project, to saying yep, we'll tie the whole project off. There is a tendency to try and minimize the time that we do a project. That is okay if you can do it in cycles of having some features added every cycle as you go through, so you can create a small silo in which you can work and do everything possible to implement or get a feature out there, and then add on top of it or improve the usability of that feature in the next cycle. But in a normal scenario, when you go into tech management, engineering management, you'd have to look at all of the things that are going on, have a big picture, overall view of the business, the absolute must-haves and the nice-to-haves, and then work your way from there. As I say, it might sound a little bit morbid, but in life there are really no guarantees. As much as some people would like to have everything by the numbers and if 1 + 1 should always be 2 sort of thing, we who work with systems and with technology and with everything, we understand that when emergence occurs, 1 + 1 is not always 2, depending on how that emergence occurs. So if you go into systems design, systems theory, you'll understand what I mean by that. So with all of that in mind, one delay plus another delay might not be, if there's a week's delay in parts and a week's delay in getting people, your team's resources and support to help, that won't always translate to a 2-week delay. It's not a linear thing. It's an emergent equation that you have to look at. And that's why when you make guarantees, or when you try to make guarantees to people, be very careful. My personal way of tackling this is like, oh yeah, it should be done by this time, and these are the things that we should have by then. But also when I give an executive team or a CEO an update of how we've structured the project. I've always done it in phases so that we have the space and buffer to be able to do the most important, most critical things first, and then slowly add on features as things get bedded in. And doing it that way just means we set better expectations, which means the overall customer experience is also better. But I also always reiterate the fact that there are no guarantees, and we can improve the likelihood of having better outcomes, and that's what we consistently do. We put the right people in the right spots, figure out who has the talent, the skills, and the strengths to be able to tackle certain aspects of projects, and bring them in at the right time of the projects, and improve the likelihood of them being done at the right time, under the right cost structure, and get the benefits that we can get from the implementation of those things. But when you do speak to your stakeholders, always be aware that there are variables that no one can control, and we minimize those variables as much as possible, but there are always going to be those variables. Sometimes, as you understand, someone might come in for what looks like a simple fix but ends up being an hour or two's work to fix that. So we need to set that expectation from that side. But from the other side, if you are a non-technical, non-engineering CEO or manager, you also need to understand that we in technology and engineering deal with a lot of variables, which means not everything is going to go to the time that you ask for. You need to work with your technical team members to figure out what would be the buffers that they need, what would be the time, resources, and other help that they need to get the projects done to a time frame, to a standard that you believe is needed for the organization and the organization standards. So hopefully that helps you out. It's one of those things that I had to learn the hard way. Like I, having come from a technical background, knew that there's all these variables that we had to account for. But when dealing with non-technical directors, non-technical managers, non-technical CEOs, I had to explain it in a way that made sense to them. Analogies that would make sense to them from business, from a overall machine sort of perspective of having, okay, there's all these variables available here, and they can interact in a way that's not always predictable. So setting that good expectation means they also understand, they give you the buffer and the space to be able to do your best work, which means you can then translate across to your teams who can do their best work with that buffer, with that safety net to work and move forward. So hopefully that helps you out. I wish you all the best in your journey as a tech professional, manager, and leader. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button so that you're notified of future episodes as they are released. If you have any other questions or would like me to cover a specific topic that would be of help to you, please let me know in the comment section below so I can cover that in a future video. Take care, and I'll look forward to seeing you in a future episode.